So Musk obviously is completing, I think now has completed the deal for Twitter. He revealed this with what I think is just an epic stunt in which he carried a sink into the building and said that he had now taken over Twitter. Let that sink in, which is so clever.
That's good.
Yeah, it's really, really good. I'm a big fan of it. Anyway, I will say I find thoughtful people who worry about things like freedom of expression, informed consent, these kinds of issues, are divided over whether or not Musk represents a huge win for those of us who believe in traditional liberal values, including free speech, or whether Musk is a cynical entity who is abusing the trust of those of us who want to see this as a very positive move. I find it interesting that we are divided over this. I must say, I believe those who are cynical about this,
those who see his move as cynical,
who see it as cynical,
they're not necessarily being cynical.
No, they're being cynical. They see, I think they're being cynical in the sense that something positive, the rare positive thing happens, and they are so mired in recognizing how bad things are that they can't even see that they have, that we are in a better position today than we were a week ago.
I'm just objecting to the idea that that's inherently cynicism on their part.
Well, I think it is exactly cynicism, because what they are doing is they are being reflexive, applying a conclusion. Yeah, this is just more of the same, to something that is actually, I think, 100% unique and at the very least difficult to assess in terms of its impact.
So what do you make of it then?
So, first of all, longtime viewers of DarkHorse will have heard us say many times that 0 is a special number. And the argument needs repeating. It's a really important one. The idea is, if there was a university where they still believed in truth-seeking and would subjugate all other values to it, right? Well, all the reasonable people would seek to send their kids there, right? Were there a newspaper or a newsroom of any kind that were decide, you know what, business-wise, we're going to take a gamble. Let's do journalism. Let's figure out what happened. Let's not think about whether or not this is good for our team. In fact, we don't have a team. We're just going to pursue the truth.
Team Truth.
Yeah, Team Truth. If Team Truth had a newsroom, you know what? Instant economic winner. Everybody would want that publication. Even if they had an ideology and they still subscribed to their ideological thing, they would subscribe to the objective thing so they knew what was going on before they got around to screwing up the analysis with their political stuff, right? Everybody would do it. So it's indeed mysterious that there isn't a single university that still functions, a single newsroom that takes advantage of the giant demand for actual journalism, right? Why is there no platform in which, you know, you have access to everybody and free speech is the value that is pursued, right? Obviously, we all want to go to a place where we can listen to what we want to listen to. And yes, a lot of people will listen to garbage if we do that. But the point is, it's a winning economic strategy. Why it doesn't exist? So basic argument is 0 is a special number. The number of functional universities has to be 0. The number of functional newsrooms has to be 0, right? The number of functional online encyclopedias in which you can actually check out whether something is or isn't true has to be 0. What Musk has done here is he has made a credible play for taking the number from 0 to something that isn't 0. He's gone non-zero. And I'm resisting saying from 0 to 1 because that is, of course, the title of Peter Thiel's book, and I don't mean to evoke it here. But the point is, a world in which any property that has access to the population at large is a safe space, to use a charged term, for the discussion of real stuff, for the pursuit of truth, for candid conversations, any place in which that's actually the governing principle is a mortal danger to Goliath. Right? Goliath needs the number to be 0. Today, the number is marching towards non-zero. And what's more, there's actually an interesting phenomenon which I really didn't see coming. Not only do you have Musk having taken Twitter private with the explicit desire to make it a place where speech is free with some limits yet to be described, but basically erring in the direction of free speech, right? But we also have Jack Dorsey, who is bringing a platform online with apparently
Dorsey was the Twitter
he
CEO?
was, and he stepped down.
Mm-hmm. And he's got some new project.
He does. It's, I believe, called Blue Sky. Okay. So I don't think, I mean, people have seen it, but I think the beta opened yesterday, if I understand correctly. What's more, you have Rumble making a credible play against YouTube. Yep. Right? Now, one of these properties functioning and
well, what do you see as the Dorsey property? What is it making a play against? Like what part of the social media or media market is it in, do you think?
Well, I don't know. I haven't seen it on the inside, but my sense is
it's not clear to me how it fits with the other two.
It's something. Forgive me, Jack, if I've got this wrong, but I think it's something in the neighborhood of a Twitter 2.0 kind of phenomenon. It's some place where discussion would happen that would be governed by different principles. Okay. But anyway, all that really has to happen is one of these three plays has to function, and all the better if it were two or three of them, right? Because then one can get compromised and it doesn't rob the landscape. It doesn't take us back to zero. Mm-hmm. So what I want to convince people of is that I don't know if Musk is for real, but everything I see, everything I know from all of those years that we did professoring and all of the unusual people that we knew, all of the students, this does strike me as a guy who's made so much money that he can afford to gamble this amount on something more interesting than money, mm-hmm. which is, I think, what he's doing. Mm-hmm. I'm not sure that this is a business play. Mm-hmm. My guess is he's not surrendering the business play, but that the idea is, all right, look, he's a guy who wants to bring internet to everybody, using Starlink, right? He wants to take humans to Mars. This is a guy who gambles on big, interesting stuff. And while I have concerns about what Starlink does to the sky, I have concerns about all of these technologies, mm-hmm. I think I understand the human being. The human being is somebody who, to quote Jim Rutt, knows how to execute, right? This is a guy who isn't just an idea guy. He knows how to execute and get stuff done. B, I think he's bored with the tyranny, right? And I mean, look, he's been part of it at times. He was, a vaccine proponent and all. But the point is, I think...
Well, a proponent and a proponent of mandates. A proponent of these vaccines, a proponent of mandates is very different. I don't think being a proponent of the vaccines is inherently a tyrannical move.
Oh, I don't see a tyrant. That's kind of what I'm saying.
Okay, but you said that as evidence that he had been somehow over in tyranny territory.
I think I'm watching a human being, very unusual one, right? This is a really unusual person. And this is somebody who has interesting interests, which some of them are frightening. The Neuralink stuff, I don't know where that leads. I don't love the idea that people are going to look to Mars and think maybe we don't have to worry so much about the Earth. Yep. But none of it matters. The real question is this guy good to his word? Is he doing what he says he's doing? I have no doubt that he is delighting beating rotten people at their own game, right? I know that that's got to be driving him. But I also do have the sense he is interested in creating a platform where the conversations that need to happen can happen. Mm-hmm. Twitter's an interesting place to do it. By far not the biggest of these properties, but it is a place where journalists and scientists and other people whose opinions actually do change things duke it out. Mm-hmm. And so, anyway, I'm hopeful. I don't see a better play on the horizon anywhere. And the key thing for our audience who knows what zero is a special number means is that is why this is important. It's not the first of many battles. The argument of 0 as a special number is that if the number is 0, we lose. If the number is anything other than 0, we win, which means he better watch himself. That unfortunately, the amount that is at stake here is the kind of stuff that Goliath pulls out the exotic tools to deal with. And, we've already seen the threat of an investigation, that they're going to go after his businesses. They're going to investigate him for attempting this.
They being
the powers that be and the properties they own. But there's going to be a legal investigation into his business dealings, looking for who knows what.
That sounds like a governmental thing.
Yeah, it is.
That's what I was asking. Who is they here?
Well, I don't think they is the government. I think they is whatever has captured the government and uses it for its purposes. But the basic point is, look, I don't think that's the limit of the hazard that comes from making a move as audacious as this one. So anyway, it is what it is. He's a very smart guy. Certainly he is aware that he is up against the most ferocious concentration of power that has ever existed, I think.
Yeah.
But, if anybody's up to it, he probably is. And he also, if you think about, I'm going to mention he who should typically not be mentioned, but if you think about what Trump did, part of what Trump did that appealed to people so much.
He's not Voldemort. Ivermectin's Voldemort.
Oh,
Come
right.
on, man.
Okay, sorry. Trump played in social media space.
Yeah.
Right? He gave himself an everyman kind of vibe by, through Twitter, really. Right? Do you remember the speech he gave in which he rickrolled everybody watching the speech?
No.
So he gave a speech in which he basically...
and yes, I had a particular aversion to watching Trump, as many people who had always voted Democrat did, but I have to say I haven't really watched political speeches in a very long time because they're all just antagonizing and horrifying.
Terrible, and Trump was no orator. He was very difficult to listen to.
Yeah.
But...
he actually rickrolled people? What do you mean?
The speech, he says, he's talking to Americans. He says, I'm never going to give you up. I'm never going to let you down. And everybody was watching it who was familiar with this was like, wait, what? Did he just do that? So anyway, but the point is, all right, say what you will about Trump,
genius.
But it was a kind of a humanizing, playful thing.
And that's his genius right there.
Right.
I don't want to say humanizing, playful, but is figuring out how to get the attention and loyalty of people, even if, and sometimes because by means that antagonize and polarize, such that you get, at least some size of group that hates you so fiercely that, as fiercely as this group over here that now loves you.
Right.
Right.
So,
which now is also the game that Democrats are playing, and maybe they were playing it all along too. But he was the one who was like, this is what I'm going to do.
Right. And the Democrats try this. Right.
They're just not as good at it.
Yeah, they're not as good at it.
Yeah.
Right. They tried to. They found a guy named Brandon. Who they tried to elevate. They're not good at it. Yeah. But anyway, the point is, there is something at the point. I always liked the battle of the fish on the cars, right? Where first you had the Jesus fish, and then you had the Darwin eating the Jesus fish, and I can't remember what the next Christian iteration of that battle was.
But it's fun. It's good.
But playful is a good way to play these things. So anyway, Musk is, like, to my mind, he's like white hat Trump in this regard. He's very good at the meme game, right? Very
white
good.
Hat Trump, okay.
And the stunt with the sink. Yeah. Okay, you're the richest guy on earth who's just made an audacious play by buying this one-of-a-kind property in which the elites of the world battle it out with bots and everybody else, right? Okay, that's serious stuff. And what he does is he walks in with an actual sink that makes, him look awkward because it's not easy to carry. Like, the dude is playful and he is having a good time, which if you know.
Well, and he doesn't seem it always seemed like part of Trump's thing was to create enemies. That the fact of an enemy class, which is to say most Democrats, gave more fuel to his fire, gave more cohesion and loyalty to his base. Whereas I don't get the sense from Musk that he wants or needs enemies.
Right.
Like he's getting them, but he doesn't. I don't think anything he's doing is after that or depends on it.
This is exactly it. And actually, I think you've nailed it here. This is not a needy person.
Right. Yes, another big difference. Right.
Huge difference.
Yeah.
The needy, powerful man is a very dangerous phenomenon. This guy isn't needy.
Doesn't seem to be.
Not needy.
Yeah.
I will remind people, the day it was announced that he had become the richest man in the world.
Musk?
Yeah.
I didn't know that was true.
Yeah. Oh, you didn't know he was the richest man in the world?
No.
He's very rich.
And the fact that I didn't, what's that?
I thought he kept going back and forth, and so it wasn't like a specific point.
No, there was a specific point at which it was announced, and it was like the first time, Musk has become this thing.
But I mean, so you're going somewhere.
Yeah.
Remember that. I do think that this just continues to point out the difference that, one of the things about Trump from well before he was president was he was always talking about his wealth.
Right.
He was talking about what his standing was, and sometimes it was lies, sometimes it wasn't, right? But that's not, like, Elon just is. Like,
right.
I don't think he ever talks about that standing, and maybe I'm wrong. I honestly don't pay that much attention.
His tweet from that day captures it, and it could be a brilliant ploy.
Oh, didn't he was like back to work?
Yeah, he was like, that's odd, back to work.
Yeah, yep.
And it was like, that is exactly, I don't think anybody ought to really be comfortable with one individual having that disproportionate level of power.
Yeah.
But if somebody's going to have that disproportionate level of power, you do want it to be somebody who regards it as, well, okay, that happened. It's kind of just an arbitrary fact.
Right.
Back to work. And the fact is the guy does work.
Yeah.
He works a lot.
And he wasn't working to attain that benchmark. He was working because he's interested fundamentally in what he does. And we can and should disagree about whether or not some of those projects are things that should be happening and whether or not there should be, curtailment, et cetera. But he's not driven by the social accolades and the public recognition of him having attained them.
Yeah. I must tell you, maybe I'm a sucker, but I'm just not in any way frightened by his values. Right? I may disagree with them, but I don't have the sense that this is somebody who wants a world that I would think is terrible. I may disagree.
Well, I mean, I guess I see in him a tech utopian, and I find that terrifying. I find the tech utopians, as I always have, fairly terrifying, and I think that he's got some naivete around living on Mars, for instance, right, and around what Starlink will do to our ability to understand our place in the universe just by looking up at the sky.
Yep.
Right.
I agree. I agree that that's a hazard, but I guess the point is, to the extent that he's a tech utopian, I don't have the sense that he's an authoritarian.
Yes,
right? He
I think that's right.
Wants to liberate people. And, he may want to liberate them to do something that we would find horrific, but, liberating is the key ingredient. I'll say one final thing, which is he is now actively searching and interacting with people on Twitter about the idea of, okay, now he's got it. What exactly is he going to do to moderate it? Because you can't not moderate it. At the very least, you have to...
you have to be able to at least receive complaints from people and have, things like doxing taken down.
You have to adhere to the law, first and foremost, and then there may be things that are legal
presumably,
that are clearly wrong.
Yeah.
Right?
Pedophilia.
Well, that ain't legal, but...
that's, you said you got to deal with the legal...
You got to deal with the legal stuff first,
yes.
And then there's stuff that's this side of the law, but clearly wrong or undesirable for the platform.
Yep.
So you got to moderate it somehow, and even with the legal stuff, where you could just say, well, that's the law, that's the line, you still have to figure out what's over it. Right. So there is a genuine problem. Now, I tweeted at him yesterday that there were some people in the Game B space that I thought were very good at these kinds of puzzles, and that he was saying, look, there's going to be a council. And my point would be, there's some people who have done a bunch of thinking down this road already.
A council
to figure out how to moderate Twitter.
Okay.
But I would also say, it occurred to me later that back when Game B was an actual group of people who met, I came up with something like a plan for governance that was impractical. Wouldn't work. It was just a kind of a proof of concept. Here's something you could do to solve the problem, but you can't really do it to a civilization. But it occurred to me you could do it with Twitter. And so anyway, I want to make the offer. If he wants to reach out through any of the people we know in common.
And you think it'll work for Twitter?
Yeah, I mean, let's put it this way. There's part of the value of the idea is that it evolves in the right direction. And so I think it could work with Twitter, whereas I don't believe there's much there from the point of view of governing.
There's no possibility of a positive feedback, like a runaway process.
The opposite. I think it would
Great.
inherently tend towards the solution he's looking for.